Hello there, everybody. How are you doing? Welcome. If you are here, then you know where you are at, and we trust that you can, dig the show and, meet and greet, wander amongst the people out there, introduce yourself, shake their hand. If you know them, you can give them a hug. I mean, that's kind of cool too. But in any case, speaking of Trina and myself, speak favor over you and thank you for joining us. This is a second look. And Miss Trina, how are you, my dear? You're looking bright and sunny as always.
Thank you. I'm just wonderful. It's been a wild week and just amazing things. This world has just lost its mind and everything is just interesting right now.
It is. Oh, I forgot to do this. There we go. So, hey, there's a lot to that silver bell stuff.
There is.
It's like, what? Okay.
It's so funny. Wayne, you hear me. I do this a lot.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. See? Yeah. So, welcome everybody.
Mine's gold. How funny. Perfect balance.
Silver and gold, Wasn't there a song by Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty about that? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, welcome everybody. Mary Wins, how are you doing? Thank you, dear. I'm going to share that link that you sent to me, Deborah. All the moderators, hello, thank you, and everybody else, because in essence, we all are moderators of our own destiny. So much love to all of you. We just speak favor again over you. Nothing missing, nothing broken. That's true prosperity. I mean, there's nothing missing in your life. There's nothing broken. You get the get out of jail free card and you get to pass go. So, hey, go all the way. Trina, Go is in here every day.
I know.
And he and I guess there's others there, are from Croatia.
Yes.
So
my roommate, her mom is 100% pure from Croatia.
Well, see, so Go, you are amongst friends. Yes, we love you. We just send and you can be our emissary over there, just go out and give people a high five. Yeah. So we anoint you, Shambhala, just go out there. You've got the favor factor going. So all right. Lost in Space, how is the weather there? Are you getting in the snow or are you in the rain aspect? Because Trina, those poor folks up there, particularly in the Tahoe region in the northern Sierras, they're getting their ass kicked. Hey, Teresa, good to see you.
I saw that. That's just unreal.
I mean, this is epic snow. I mean, it's like, wow. Yeah.
Wow. I've never seen Tahoe buried like this ever.
I remember I had an aunt and uncle who owned a cabin up on South Shore, and I remember they had a door because they had this huge A-frame, and there was a door on the top floor.
Yep.
And this is the type of snow that you can see why now. So, and I just want to say, Linda Espinosa, thank you for the book. Got the doc. We're going to talk about the real, FVRIL, the new race, the new species.
They're old.
Yeah.
Very old.
We're really old. Hey, Bill, good to see you. I am Nancy. How are you? Hello from Southwest Missouri. Hello, darling. Good to see you. You're just right down the road. Jargo said, I saw Callie floating down. Ain't it the truth? And 2 years ago, maybe it was even last year. I remember, particularly with Gaia and Paul, hello, you two, that, they were in the midst of this serious drought. Lost in Space, the fires, when he was dealing with that. So he says, very heavy rain, 30 feet in Lake Tahoe. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I like snow, Trina. I like to go out and see it fall. And occasionally I like to see, maybe 6-7 inches, 30 feet.
No way.
No.
I can't fathom that much snow. I've never seen that much snow. I've been around 18 feet or so, but I've never seen 30. I can't. I can't even fathom what that. Wow.
I grew up with my grandparents for a short period of time, and they liked going up to Tahoe. I can remember my grandmother playing nickel slot machines. But my point to this is we went up through on Highway 50 and Placerville up through that direction. And I can remember that the snow was way, way above the car. Wow. So it's, I remember that as a child, because as a child, you're going, all right. It was rather scary, to be candid with you. But anyway.
That's what I was just thinking, Wayne. I was like, that would make me a little scared, I think. I'd feel like I'm the biggest maze of my whole life.
Little side story on that. My brother, my grandfather was a stickler that every weekend the aunts and uncles met somewhere. And of course, there were 26 of us cousins, all within 5 years of each other. And so we went up to Sacramento, and my brother, Guy, he was sitting on the right-hand side of the door on the back seat. My grandparents had a Galaxy 500. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. But anyway, and that rascal got a hold of that door and opened it. And the door swung open. And I'm sitting next to him watching all this. As a kid, I think I was no more than 5 years old myself. And he is holding on to the handle of this car. My grandfather is freaking out, can't get over to the side of the road quick enough. So when we got pulled over, and of course, my grandparents were just freaking out, we got him back in the car, and I remember the soles of his shoes were smoking. He had held on, and it was quite amazing. Wow. But I digress. Yeah. Wow. So we Jack Dreaming, good to see you as well, everybody. I haven't heard anything on Scotty Boy. Have you?
No, but somebody did say they saw him in chat, and then that I didn't see him, and I
didn't see him either
since either. So I don't know. That was it was in another forum. I think it was on. I don't know what it was on, but yeah, okay. I saw Scotty Boy in chat, and I was like looking and looking and looking. I didn't see. So I haven't.
Robert V said, I had a Galaxy 500. Yeah, they were good cars.
I remember that car. Yeah, I grew up in a Reiki yard, though. I had to inventory cars, so I kind of.
Well, Scotty Boy is in the chat room. Well, hi, Scotty Boy, good to have you back, brother. Yay.
I'm so glad. Yay.
It's like far out, you see.
Yeah, I was looking.
Tribe is back. It's right here.
Hi, Scotty Boy. Oh, Favor, and so glad you're back.
Yes. And Lauren, good to see you. Ginger Grin. Tone, hello, good to see you as well. S. Lee, what's happening? Jargo. John Price, how are you doing? Lots of troublesome 93. What's up? Mr. C is in the room, and Erica Lola is smoky shoes. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, that's for sure. Paul Joe, good to see you as well. So, Trina, you had in your weekend, I guess you had an event that took place that was, kind of something that all of us will begin to face. So as I got the text, I'll let you fill in the details. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there was something that happened and unexpectedly, and I'll let you pick it up from there.
Well, it was Friday night, and we were all just getting done with our work days, and we got a phone call that one of our friends had a massive stroke, and it wasn't one that you will recover from. So he was in ICU, and they started calling people down to go and say their goodbyes. So my roommate went, and she went, and she got to hold his hand while he took his last breath. And she said she'd never experienced anything like that before. The presence of what comes into the room and just the whole experience. And she's lost family, lots of family. And it was really hard for her. And this healed all of that grief. All of that grief was.
What was it that she said that she experienced?
She experienced light.
Okay.
Like she said, she'd never, like tangible light. You couldn't see it, but you could feel it. She said the vibration. She said it just brought her a sense of peace and joy. And she says she couldn't even put it into words. She was like, it was just unbelievable what she was feeling. And it was amazing because the people that were there weren't very connected to religion or spirituality. And basically they didn't even realize that his soul was still in the room, even though his body was down. He was still there, and nobody could, like, they were like, he's gone, and they were just talking. She's like, yeah, he can hear what you're saying right now. And they started arguing. They're like, no, he can't. And she goes, Michael,
Our species is really ignorant about death, but go on.
It was profound. I mean, he had such a shock. There was no coming, a stroke. There was no brain, nothing. And she says, Michael, if you're there, can you please move your foot? And he moved his foot. And everybody was like,
but was he already left out of the body?
oh, he was so gone with his brain for his stroke. It bled all the way down the brain.
But what I'm saying was, did he still have a heartbeat
still had a heartbeat.
Okay.
But they didn't, they thought because his brain was gone, that he was gone. And we're like, I know his brain is not working, but his soul is still present. It hears. So tell him what's going on. He probably doesn't know what happened, So it was profound. She was explaining to him what happened. And then she asked him if he could hear, and he moved his foot. It just, not only did it transform her, it transformed everybody there.
To what end?
To that there's more to this world than just the physical body.
Yeah.
That there's something.
I love that. That's profound for so many people. I mean, we take it for granted that
they didn't even know.
Group. Yeah.
They didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, when I go into a crowd, I've yet to meet a kindred vibration yet. It is. There's, there is a lot, and in the readings and the experiences that I have seen and heard and experienced myself, is that there is a belief that says that if you're there to aid in the transition of the individual, that transition for the most part, and I got to preface this, if it's one of kind of joy, kind of, there's this happiness of expectation, it makes the transition for the individual so much smoother. I think in turn, it brings in that force, or what we would call potential energies, that there is this process. And I think there's two types of passing. There seems to be one where it's not so pleasant, and there's others where it's embraced, and there seems to almost be a homecoming.
It's so interesting. They took him off the ventilator, and it was like 4:00 in the morning, and she was exhausted. She's like, I shouldn't have been asleep. She was like, I'm going to go ahead and go home. And literally, she only got 5 minutes down the road, and all of his vitals just started crashing, just crashing. Yeah. And then his brother was like, will you please come back? And it was like the nurses called, because he wasn't in there. He was getting ready to leave too. He was down at his car, and they called him back in, and then he called her and he said, can you come back? It was like, he didn't want her to leave. He wanted her to be present. So it was very, very.
My wife, yesterday with a client, she was on death watch.
Yeah.
And, there's a formal process to this. And of course, when you're aware of the transitioning of a soul, a spirit, an individual, you look on it with different eyes now, because, you see the people with the fact that there was an individual carrying forth the experience, all the memories, the lessons, Ryder Lee and I was on his show tonight. It's going to be premiering over on his channel. I've left the link in there. When you think about the knowledge and then the wisdom, wow, and it's different for every person. It's just amazing. And I love the fact that you had mentioned, she said that everyone in the room had felt or sensed that there was this light.
They felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like this. You can have yourself blindfolded and go out and sit on the beach and you're going to feel the light. You know what I'm going to say? It's a tangible process and it's wonderful. It's true, isn't it?
It shocked them.
Yeah.
It shocked them.
Did they leave with as you said now, with the understanding that it doesn't end when the body, spirit, and the spirit bifurcate?
I think this was so outside of their belief system. It was almost like they were almost in shock, and they just lost a loved one. So they were, there's a lot going on there. They're processing it, but all of them, they wanted to eat my friend's energy. They were in love with her light. It was like she brought the light into that place, and I'm so grateful for that. She's such a wonderful, wonderful soul. And it affected all of them. Yeah, so I don't know if it'll be a permanent effect, but it was definitely an effect of that moment. And it profoundly shook all of them for at least 24 hours that we witnessed.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because it took them about 24 hours to leave the planet, a little bit more. And the whole process apparently was exactly what was being needed at that moment. And it did definitely open their eyes to there is much more than just this physical world.
It's a fact.
Yeah.
Ryan SK is in the room, London man from over in London.
Hi,
and
London.
greeting, Bonnie. So good to see all of y'all. What the Flock TV? How you doing? There's a catchy phrase.
I love his channel name.
I mean, that's just freaking cool. That's all I get. Scotty Boy says, stay away from hospitals at all costs. Yeah, they're not exactly, the Disneyland. Well, they're a Disneyland, but listen, they're typically either
like the ride.
They're the most often in the modern age, they are the entry to where they put the chains on you, and then they collect the last of you as you're going to escape. And it's debatable whether the chain still hit or not. So Trina, boy, there is so much going on. Yesterday, I discussed the aspect of the thought that in this realm, what we call reality, what we're born into, that, for instance, we talked about the birth canal, birthing through the birth canal itself, as opposed to a C-section. Two different experiences here, because the child in a C-section is actually brought forth into this world without pain, without trauma. Some suggest that there's a spiritual difference as well, because any way you look at it, you can either say birthing is a punishment or an initiation. I
think it's both, and it's also
I could see that. Yeah. Hey, there is Ryder. How you doing, my friend? Ryder Lee is in the room.
Much love to you. The pain that the baby goes through to go through the actual birthing process, it produces a lot of chemicals. And I wonder if that is a good setup for the nervous system, because it seems sometimes they can self-soothe a lot easier, that might have a higher pain tolerance. So I can see benefits to the physical body from going through the birthing experience. But boy, you also see some irreversible trauma.
Well, I think the trauma carries forth.
Well,
but
I mean, like with cerebral palsy, injuries at birth that completely destroy the child. Yeah, this goes so many ways. It's so profound. It's like, wow, I can see it going in all directions.
And help me on this one. With a C-section, it's typically localized, right? They don't put the mother out.
Yeah.
So it's a localized, situation where you have to make a suture in order for the child to come out. You see, maybe it's just me at the age where I'm at, and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, if I had a choice between the two, I'd have taken the C-section. It seems, again, that if I've averted this process of which most go through, and I think it imprints itself on the fabric of our being, this birthing process. That's why we fear death. We think that death is going to be that distant memory that we think about when we came into this realm. This is, and it's interesting. I have not seen any studies done on, and if anyone knows any, I'd love to read it, because I think that this would be interesting to see. And for me, from a spiritual perspective, because nothing happens in the physical if it doesn't happen in what we would call the unseen realms. There's got to be something there. I can't nail it, but
I keep hearing the whole curse that was put on us. I will put anonymity between you and the woman, and I will make childbirthing painful. I don't think it was painful before, Wayne.
So interesting. So does the woman then escape the curse? Well, now this has got interesting connotations extended all over it.
Too, when you do cesarean section for a mother, okay, so the woman, the baby might have it a lot easier, but the mom doesn't. They got to take out her entire bowels and her stomach and her organs, and they put them on a tray next to her beside the bed. And then they cut through the womb and retrieve the baby, and then have to stuff all of her internal organs back inside of her body, and then sew her up with multiple layers of stitches.
I never had one, so I'm completely ignorant on this. I mean,
fully recover completely from getting completely lacerated through them. So you have, your stomach's never the same. It's hard to re-strengthen it. I mean, a lot of women, they really work hard and put everything right back, but most don't. But there is an exception.
So that's interesting. I mean,
there's a lot to a cesarean section.
So extrapolate that,
And think about this too. If there was an emergency, mom can't get up and run with that baby. I could get up and run right after I had my baby. But these moms can't. They're paralyzed.
But then, it's like my father's mother. She died giving birth to him and so, I can say this, the same thing, that, within the natural birthing process, that there is great risk to the woman, and, particularly, because many of them, you can easily, as I understand, an artery that can be easily damaged, and
it is. It's like anytime you give birth, that there's a chance that one or both will both die.
See, that's so interesting, and we know we can trace that back to the fact that, well, particularly in the worlds under this God spell, that again, you see, and I'm a person who, with my memory, I accumulate things very quickly. So we're discussing this, and then I extrapolate that to where we were discussing where women have no soul. God didn't breathe into them like God did the male. And the discussion, particularly in, I believe it's Islam, where women are not allowed into heaven. The controversy of the Nag Hammadi with the Apocrypha, where they asked Mary Magdalene to leave the room, and Jesus said, well, she can stay. But it was Peter who said no, because women are not allowed in heaven.
Right. And then Jesus said no, and he
we said
a whole big argument with that one. And I will tell you, the opposite, the ancient Greek stories of Prometheus, Athena gave the soul to us. Prometheus brought the celestial fire, but Athena gave forth the soul.
Depending on what you read, Lilith is actually responsible for giving us a soul. That's what she sacrificed.
I think Athena might be Lilith.
I think they're all one and the same. Yeah.
I wonder that all the time, Wayne. I really do, especially when I hear a lot about Athena and her power, the goddess of love and war. That just sounds so much to me like Lilith. So I wonder that a lot. I really do.
Well, it's said that, in fact, if you go back and review the Liber Lilith, she's very distinct in what happened there. It's that she was the one who was responsible for what we call this essence of, which makes us unique. Yes, we're mortal, but we also have been giving this thing what we describe as a soul, which the gods don't have. I mean, as I said yesterday, I said, I do believe that there are more humans here than what people can think that have no soul. I mean, if you're planning a war where there doesn't need to be a war, you can't tell me you have a soul. No.
I think a lot of these people may not have soul.
I believe that the gods have no souls.
It could be because if they're pure artificial intelligence, fractal programs.
Well, no, let's go back to the fact. Let's go with Jesus. Does Jesus have a soul?
If it was a human, probably. But
he was a hybrid.
Then I don't know.
Well, I mean, come on. I mean, the story goes that the Holy Spirit, I guess, planted the seed within her, is quote unquote what it says. But I don't care where the seed came. The seed wasn't human.
But I don't know if soul is exclusive to human. That's the part that I'm.
Because are you saying aliens have souls? I mean,
because they have love and compassion and they're benevolent. And then
there's some that are just real nefarious.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if those are the ones to do, those are the ones don't. I'm like,
it's like, yeah. I mean, well, it is because, it's that thing. I mean, I was recently reading an article on the guy up in your part of the country, Travis, I forget his last name, that was abducted. They made a movie of it, Fire in the Sky.
That was literally right down the road from burnt down.
Real. He said
Travis Walton. That's it.
Travis Walton, yes, thank you. And he said that the beings that he met the hybrids. That they, were actually, there were those humans. He said they looked human. They were actually in suits, which said that, the atmosphere, he claimed that there were parts of the ship that had, the atmosphere was different. He found it very difficult. But what he did say, I thought was so interesting. He said they had no soul. I don't know why he said that, but that's what he got the sense.
And Wayne, I think that would the best, fastest explanation I could give for that potential would be what people talk about with Men in Black. Those would be absolutely obvious 100% hybrided soulless beings that you would see would be those, and they have solid black eyes.
I have run into the black. I've told that experience in Colorado.
Soul being for sure, but that I don't know, because I see a lot of people that look just like us, and I don't feel a soul in them, Wayne.
Oh boy, where I felt that most was in church.
Oh, okay.
No, it was in church.
Well, that's what you said. You think demons go to church? I was like, oh, yes, I do.
Well, you think about this, and I'm just going to throw it out here because we're free thinkers, open-minded. Maybe the ones of us who rejected that belief system was because we actually do have a soul, which the vast majority that are attracted to that type of thing don't.
Oh God!
And if you think that you can't get to God, that you have to have an intermediary.
Oh, some of the most precious people I've met in my world, and I know their souls are so beautiful and pure because I've actually seen them. They're very religious, but they're older. That's what they were raised with. It's what they believe. How they found God, and however they did it, it worked for them. It worked.
Well, as I said, I met a lot that, and now I'm thinking about it, it would make sense. If I was a valve spirit who no longer had a body, and if I didn't have a soul, where would I be most likely drawn to?
Right.
Think about it.
I'm right. Yeah. Wait, I'm telling you, they hang out at the hospitals, they hang out at the graveyards.
Do you know some of the most haunted places are churches?
They are. Yes, I've always felt it since I was a little girl. I felt so many spirits. It was so overwhelming to me.
You take an SLS camera into a church, folks.
Oh, I bet.
Your freaking screen is going to start showing anomalies everywhere on the ceiling. You're going to find them in areas, and kind of makes sense, though, really. I mean, because these are nothing more than portals, I would think, to realms that apparently, as like my shirt says, I've made some very bad choices in life. Because, yeah.
It's so funny that we're talking about this, and I just wrote this down. It's like a day before yesterday. I was like, where's God in all of this? I was like, where is this? Where's God? Everybody's like, where's God? Where's God? I was like, well, okay. I don't know where it would apply, because if it's omnipotent and omnipresent, that means it would be non-local. That means it would be part of everything, that it would exist as an unseen as well as a seen force. The force thus then would be called, in my minds, would be ether, spirit, along with many other names. So this ether is also known as consciousness, an awareness. So consciousness is based upon the perception and its own interpretation of it. So where is God in all of this? This does not apply. God is a non-local, it is ether. So it would have to be everywhere, all at the same time and at the same moment. So if consciousness is not a force, that means it would not be local, it would not be fixed. So where is God in all of this? Ether, everywhere. Spirit is spirit, us. Spirit, us. And I put spirit is us.
Yeah, I agree with you, because again, I don't see any gods. I don't see any Satan, any Lucifer. I don't see a Jesus. I see
them all, Wayne, because I see them all as thought forms, and all of this is thought form. All of this.
And my point to all this is that they're not orchestrating what the events of our planet are going through. Because if there's interference of an alien kind, then humanity no longer has any personal responsibility. We're victims. And victims don't have a personal responsibility because of the person that did the attack.
God.
And it becomes very clear to me. I was out in our woods and just thinking to myself that here's what I'm struggling with now, Trina, is that if the universe can be dated, then that means death can be dated.
Yeah.
So follow me on this. So I'm sitting here thinking, all right, so was there death prior to humanity coming on the scene in this realm? And if there was, then why weren't we a part of what this death provides? It leads into another dimension. It's a portal. So we talk about the soul. We talk about the spirit. We talk about mortality, immortality, that we're everlasting. But I have a problem. So if we're everlasting, then where were we before this, what we call this dimension, the spiritual realm? Where were we?
I think it was in a position of all positions. It's more of a mist, like in the Nag Hammadi, the pleroma, in the unseen, invisible, unformed realms of consciousness.
Okay.
And then from the one, which is a circle, when you add one to it and you divide it, it cuts the circle in half, and that gives you the polarity. And I think through the polarity was how we got the soul through that polarity.
Okay, so I have no problem with that. So let's extrapolate that forward then. So would you then agree that there are others that, I don't know if you want to call them human, I don't know, they're another creation, another thought form that has physical form like us? Will they be granted a soul? Will they be granted the same rights, the same position that we as humans think that we have to this next realm? Because if creation is an ever evolving situation, not a one-time pony, you see where I'm coming with that? That means for me is that when I cross over, and I'm sure things become very much more apparent, the question I'm having, if I am in fact an eternal being, will there be other future eternal beings that haven't been created yet?
I don't think so.
So then you're saying that what we have here is, hello, Nina, is then a one-time event in the annals of all things possible.
Yes, because it fractals off of itself, and the tiniest part of it can become a whole new universe. And then that universe can grow. But I think it's all coming from the original image.
But you see, what I'm trying to get to is that we weren't always here. Yet we claim we have a soul. We claim we have a spirit.
That's only if you're thinking third dimensional, because this is linear time. If you go above that in the higher realms of existence, which you're existing in, that's the immortal part of you. There's no time there.
Well, I get that, but what we're dealing with is the here and now. And what I think is that eventually, I can't see that we are a one-time event. I sense in my spirit, deeply in my spirit, that there are others yet to be even thought of that will be created and will have a similar experience to ours, and that they will have the same endued natural essence of a spirit and having the ability to have a soul and then begin to grow that soul. And when they arrive on the other side, many of us will be there. They will be a new something.
That would be cool.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I've just never witnessed it, because every time when I'm in the higher realms, not one person doesn't know the other person.
So are they all human? That's the question when you're in the higher realms. Are they all human?
Where I'm at, because it's like that's my gathering place, I guess I go. So there's humans there. But no, when I go to councils, there's all kinds of beings there. So
do they have a soul, do you perceive?
I think they do, Wayne.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Like they do.
Yeah.
They do. Even the octopus face person feels like it has a soul.
Interesting. I love this because this is real to me. I mean,
I've seen other aliens that my instant defenses, my shield goes up immediately, and it's like boom, whoa. I feel.
Well, I did that show. I think it's been 4 years ago. Does your soul have a bounty on it?
I think they all do. I think it's very valuable.
I think they're more valuable than what we have any idea. I mean, I get this thing because I have been out there. I mean, I have seen my departure. And in fact, I wrote it down. Rennie, much love to you, darling. I wrote this down. I mean, it was a night vision. And if y'all go back and you go there and look at the video, and as I was leaving Earth, I saw Earth, but what I saw was so almost indescribable because there's so much coming in and there's so much going out. But what I did see was that there's this, it's almost like a canvas.
Frequency fence.
Yeah. And it opens up, and I saw all these souls, spirits, I don't know, they were deceased. I know that. And they were going faster than I could even see, but I'm going in the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. And the further we're traveling, and I look around me, and there's others, it's the same essence. But as we're continue to and it really speeds up. I looked back and I couldn't see the earth anymore.
Yep.
And I told you that the longer we were in this darkness, the more others were falling away. Like they weren't going to make, I don't know. And when we arrived, as I told you, we arrived at this platform. Mm-hmm. And there were these beings that huge. I remember looking up at them, and at the same time, I was looking at them.
Oh, yeah.
And I still remember the one, and it was like he just didn't even touch it, and these gates opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember distinctly he said, "All ye who step through shall never come through again." Something similar to that.
Yep.
And I was the only one that stepped through.
Mm-hmm.
At least maybe that's what, because when I stepped through, and then I told you, I found myself in this realm where there was this membrane. And I could see other people, other beings on the other side of this membrane. And the next thing, I wake up and I'm back in my body again.
Yep. I've seen the membrane.
Yeah, it was weird.
I know exactly what you mean. I've seen
Yeah,
the
I was
membrane.
like, geez.
Like I said, it's also another way that was shown to me was like the frequency fence. It's an energy thing, but it's like a membrane. And
Yeah.
that's how I started to get the concept of all the information is held within one single cell.
Yeah.
The smallest part contains the entire universe. And it was when you start seeing the as above, so below, as within, so without, it starts referencing through your consciousness. And then you access higher dimensional consciousness through your own consciousness. It's just so big. It's so big. It's hard to conceive.
It is. And that's why I think so often we've been taught and you think about it, all theology, all ideology, all philosophy deals with the fact that it says that we are at this unique spot. Humans, we're complex. We can't even figure it out.
Yeah.
And yet, we know that we have this limited time here. And as you get older, you realize how much that time really is limited.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's just like that. And the thing that I question now, we can't be the only humans that have come to this. I mean, as I look at the chat room, John says, sounds like you're destined to remain on Earth when I hope not. I think I was in the vision that I had, I was not. I mean, the thing is that once you step through that opening, that gate, however you want to call it, everything disappeared. And I was left it's hard to say. I mean, it's space, but yeah. So listen, so I hope not.
If you see a membrane, it's a cell. You've been placed into a cell. A new cell.
Well, you know what? I got the sense.
Right. What would the cell be? What does the cell contain? What's the information within that cell carrying? What part of the body does that cell belong to?
You see, and I perceive it a little differently. What I perceived that I was about to be able to go through was this other dimension. Yeah, it's not this dimension.
It's
and the beings,
it's the invisible. Yeah, it's the unseen. But like I said, you can't access that unless you get your vibration there. And that's going to be based on consciousness and how much knowledge and wisdom you know about what this potential system is. And you're definitely looking at all of that. So you might be able to go through a lot of places other people can't reach. And that could be the other opposite end of that. So I know me, when I had my dream of getting myself cut out of the serpent, the last thing that was in my consciousness was that you are now been set free from the bondage of the serpent, which I was shown the Ouroboros, which is our entire universe.
It's interesting. When I was in the video industry, there was the big trade show and convention each year, VSDA. Anyway, I met the cast of Star Trek Next Generation, Patrick Stewart, Jonathan Frakes. And I remember I had a chance to talk to Jonathan Frakes, and I said, the thing I've always found with what Gene was talking about, traveling at warp 1, which is, you're traveling faster than the speed of light. And I said, they say that the universe is expanding. And I said, I often wonder what it's expanding into. And Jonathan Frakes says, he said, I have had those same thoughts. And he said, which I thought was really interesting, he says, it is us that's causing this universe. And he said, it's undefined matter that we're expanding into. But once it's absorbed into our expansion, it becomes a part of this universe.
That's like,
anyway, that was my story of ever meeting, that, do you know who Jonathan Frakes is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He's really a cool guy, So is Patrick Stewart.
All the people in Star Trek, their minds were way out there in a good way. They were
they were cool people. Those
guys did a lot of channeling, a lot of trance work, a lot of deep introspection, they did a lot of work to get those storylines out into the public.
You think about it, Gene Roddenberry, he defined, I think, he is the poster child of what a creative open mind is about.
Or somebody who
I don't know where he was channeling it from, but
or somebody who can access his own personal future timelines. I mean,
when you were writing about God being omnipresent, omnipotent, omnipotent, you see, that's the problem that I have. Here's the thing, and let me just put this out there. You see, for a being to be able to see everything before it ever happens, to be everywhere at every time, at the same time. And here's just a thought, everyone out listening to this in the chat room. You see, I don't think that exists, because I think it would cause insanity to come.
Well, it could.
Well, I mean, imagine this, Trina, you know everything. You are all places at the same time. And yes, you've escalated yourself to a goddess, right? What's your purpose anymore?
Create.
Create what?
Everything.
But you told what we discussed before, that creation was, the one-time event for us.
I see it. Well, it's so hard to put into words.
I know it's not easy, is it?
When we look at creation, third dimensional.
Take a deep breath.
Right. We're looking at matter. We're looking at physicality. There's creation so much that's not physical.
I agree.
So with that, it's like creation.
But do you see my point, though, that if you knew everything, what is your point of existing anymore?
To teach. To show others how
to do. But you know that already. You see that already. You've already experienced, because if you can think it, you've already done it.
Yes.
So how could it know everything advanced? You see, to me, that this is a paradox.
I think that's why it created life, because with the process of life would be the process of death. So being an immortal being or spark or energy, which can never be destroyed, it can just transform or transmute into a new vibrational state of existence. So within that, there's a safety loop for the creation to go out of itself and create with a veil over its face, so it knows nothing. That's probably why we come here with amnesia, because we're part of that consciousness, experiencing consciousness for that consciousness. And to do that, we go into these physicality cycles of death to experience the images of what we're creating in the mind.
No, I get us individually, but I'm talking about the supreme conscious, the one, whatever it is. I say this because this is where we have this
Remember,
chance.
Wayne, I got to that spooky place that time where there was an indifference.
I think that's more real than what most would want to admit to.
That could be one big layer of it. When you get to the higher parts, you do get to.
Do you think that there's going to be someone waiting for you to take care of you on the other side?
I believe that I have connections with beings that I've had for eons of time, and they're part of my council, actually. So I know that those are probably the first energies I will connect to, because they're as closely linked to me as anything could.
But see, I'm talking on the nurturing side. Every human that's born here cannot exist unless it is nurtured and cared for by the older part of the species. And I try to put it in this aspect. So what are you expecting on the other side? Are you expecting a reception? I mean, you're about to experience something that's going to be really traumatic. I mean, you just got to.
I think you can do anything you want, Wayne. I kind of do. I think what you believe is what you're going to see. So if you have a religious faith, you're going to
have that. And there's a lot of thought to that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. So I think plan your death is a great idea. You know, literally not many people even think about that, but I think about plan your death. What would you like to do?
John says, do you require diapers on the other side?
Yeah, and see, I don't think so, because there's no food, only for pleasure and entertaining and socialization, which are from past habits that we've brought forth from physical dimensions. So it's weird how I see in the more higher but middle dimensions, I see where we're still acting like we're kind of human, but we're kind of not.
I think it's a holodeck, to be honest with you. I think it's exactly what we're going to enter into. Yeah. Yeah, because it wasn't the idea of the technology with a holodeck is that it can manipulate matter into anything. Yeah. And although you have a defined area in a holodeck, it's endless.
3D printing.
I mean, think about it. Isn't that to me would probably, I mean, we have hospitals. I mean, women giving birth to babies for as long as we've been here. But then I'm thinking about the fact that, well, why wouldn't you kind of end up in a holodeck? So it's like,
like I said, Wayne, I've seen, that there's potentials that were like 3 layers of consciousness deep. So like your main operating system is like way, way, way bigger, way older than your physical human body. And then there's an operator that's above that. That might be part of the soul operation system. And then above that, you got the spiritual operation system. And these are all parts of you. And I'm like, whoa, how do I wrap my brain around that? And it's like, hard. And then every one of those consciousnesses is so different than this consciousness that's third dimensional Earth, Trina. Those consciousnesses are completely.
Well, that's the scenario of you're having a roundtable discussion and it's all you.
Yeah. And that's the funniest part.
I mean, it's like, geez.
The higher you go, that's when you start to realize it's like, oh my God, know thyself, and the Father and I are one, and all this stuff. It's like, because it's all you. Everything that you see in this third dimensional reality plane is a projection from your own stream of consciousness, which is projecting your reality in this physical world. So in all actuality, it is all you.
I tell you, when I was in Bible school, we did a detailed study of John 17. I and the Father are one. We are one. We are in you. You are in I. And if you take that and break it down into the Greek, it's some deep stuff. And I don't think people fully understand what is being communicated.
Presence, which is that all thing, which is everything. And we can't not be a part of that all thing. And but it's not a person or a deity, or it is the omnipotent, omnipresent. You can't.
Can I say what my problem with that is? I get we're talking Star Trek here, but I mean, I look at this situation, John 17, God is in me, I'm in God, this is Jesus, and we are in you, and yada, 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 yada. And I interpret that as another interpretation is that's the Borg. Resistance is futile. We are going to assimilate you.
And I think that is that does happen here. I really do think that
freaks my ass out. You go on the other side and, and I'm looking, oh crap, now what? But I'll end up on my beach is where I'm going to end up. Well, Linda, I know you have
it's like the whole projection of this entire system is literally a projection. So it would all just be a fake image coming from a projector movie screen.
In the movie Contact, that's what Jodie Foster, when she went through the wormhole and was on the beach.
Realization a long time ago, and I'd never ever seen that movie. And when I did, it shook me to my core, because I was like, oh my God, that could be right.
I think it Carl Sagan was the co-creator and wrote that script, and wow, as you and I are talking, I'm drawn back to it because
if you believe all this is real, You can get stuck in it. But like I said, your consciousness, you question if this is real. I think those are your keys right there. If you have that consciousness to ask those questions in your consciousness, you're already on a track to different places than most. See what I mean? A lot of people fell away on the way. Yeah, a lot of people are going to fall away because they haven't explored consciousness, especially spiritual. Wayne, you've been doing this stuff your whole life. So, you know what I mean? It's you've been looking at things that most people didn't even know were possible, like the healings you witnessed. Most people have never seen things like that ever in their life. They just never have. They don't even believe it because they've never seen it. But you've seen things that you can't unsee. You've experienced things that you can't unexperience. You've spoken in tongues that people can't speak. You understand these things very intimately within you. So within that, your consciousness is going to take you to places that most people will not have access to because they can't get there because they don't have the consciousness to get there.
I had a dream. I met Jesus and I said, "You're not Jesus." He says, this is what he told me. He says, "I'm as real as they want me to be."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I woke Lynn up and I said, "I just met Jesus." And she's in her sleep. She almost started laughing, almost choked. She says, it's too early in the morning. But she said, "You met Jesus?" And I went, "Yeah, in my dream." Yeah. But yeah, it was funny. And I thought it would, I said, I'm sorry. Her reaction was this one.
I just love that. And I love it because there's such a profound truth to that. Because like I said, I've been walking with this being my whole life since I was a little kid. And I knew about the unseen worlds and the unseen. I just knew that I wasn't from here. I had so much information when I was little. And it really tries to get pulled away from you as you get older. It
does. They
try to steal it. They try to steal that information. They don't want you to remember it. And when you understand that, then I started to, and then he told me not to ever go to church. There was a lot of things. And then
that's something I can get into.
Well, and then the biggest one was that made me cry for about 3 weeks trying to process what he had just spoken was beware of the Jesus trap. And I was like, because it's all fake here. And he was like,
when I was on my own as a youth, we would go to these gatherings on the weekends, and they always had the Children of God, the yellow bus there, and it had the Children of God on it. And it was so funny because many times I was tripping. But you know what? It was worth it to go in there because, they had food, it was like, oh, far out, tell me about Jesus,
Right. Well, the thing is,
I probably met him more times in the astral realm than I even realized,
you know the consciousness that we all kind of share this consciousness.
Yeah.
That
True.
was what he told me that he was. He says, I am the image
that
reflects the consciousness of a creator in a form that you can conceptualize in your brain. Something that you can, because I don't think we even had a concept that God could be bigger than something that didn't look like us. And I think this is why they gave us these images or these icons.
Can I say something about God?
Yeah.
The concept of God, I've known this. I don't talk about it because it's just me, but God is no bigger than I am.
I can't.
He can't be bigger than I am.
Everything, Wayne. I see it in. You can't take it out of anything, and I don't care if you're talking the darkest of the dark, the lightest of the light, the trees, the bed, the coffee cup. You can't. It's in everything. It's what allows the geometry to anchor into the template. It's like the medium. It's like the water of the womb. It's like it's in everything, but it's that fabric that makes everything be able to bind together in a process and create a pattern. It's the first thing to create patterns, and without those patterns, we would have no pattern recognition. We would not be able to see anything. So it's so much bigger than this little box that people try to put it in. And I can't even put it into words because it's so big, but it's in everything. Everything, but it's not what people think it is. It's so hard because it's so I don't think if that fabric wasn't here, it's like the gossamer that holds all creation into existence, and it holds it into position when it's not even in form. It's the consciousness of it. It's this intelligence. It's so hard to put into language.
I'm there, hon. I have been.
God thing is for me. It is so big. I can't ever explain it properly, and I don't think I ever will be able to. So I'm just like, I'm just gonna have to find a way to be good with that.
In one of my adventures out in that realm, I was in this room. It was solid white, and I was sitting on. I didn't even know there, that you could actually sit it. And this guy comes into the room and sits down and introduces himself as God. I said, "You don't look like God." And he said, "Well," he said, that's what I heard. He says, "What am I supposed to look like?"
That's what I would imagine it would say.
I was like, okay.
And then you don't like it. So what do you want me to put on now? I'll put on a new costume for you if you need. We can do that too.
Now, if he came out in drag, I would go, wait. It's like, party on, Garth, party on. Yeah. Well, what a freaking fascinating hour.
Like I said, our brains are that powerful. They really
I think they are.
I really do. And that's the God thing. It's that conscious part of us. And that's the part of us. That's the part of God. It's not saying you are God. You'll never be God. Really? Okay. Boom. You're gone. You're butterflies. You're floating. No
it's
problem.
Like, he asked me, he says, "So do you want the job?" I said, "What?" Yes. Being God.
He said, please take this God.
Being God?
Right. Why don't
no, I don't want the job. You keep it.
Yeah. Why don't you be the brain template for the entire universe for a few quadrillion gazillion years? Why don't you have your turn, Wayne?
I love it.
I could see that because
they measure intelligence by the level of your sense of humor.
Yeah, that's part of it too. Laughter is more valuable than gold.
Grace, I'm glad you brought that up. The movie with George Burns and Rocky Mountain High. Who's the artist? John Denver.
There you go.
And where George Burns played God. That is a funny movie, really, because I think that's what God is. They
tell you a lot of the truth in the movies, but we got to always remember too, these are just images captured by somebody's perception. So it's a fractal of a potential truth, because we're all seeing different fractals of it. We're all looking at the same thing, but we only see different parts of it, because if we perceived all of it at the same time, our brain would explode.
I think so.
Oh, I know so.
Chloe, how you doing? We're going to get Chloe on. I got to tell you what, got to get her on. So many good people. Well, Miss Trina, this is gone by like the wind.
I'm all fired up, and now I'm all getting hot.
I was like, we're in the zone, man. Because this is where we are. You see, that's what I'm talking about. You can tell by the energy. Yeah,
it's everywhere. You can't take it all in, or you'll just particleize and explode.
Spontaneous, ethereal explosion. Yeah,
I think that's why he created the dolls, so we could go and experience these thoughts.
Oh, that's an interesting one. God, you devil. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate it. That's the movie. Oh God, you devil. That's a good one.
God, yep.
Yeah, that's a funny ass movie.
He created all these little dolls, these animals, because he's like, I'm gonna create. It's like when little kids set up their houses, and they set up their villages, and they set up all their little people. It's the same thing.
Now, I could write a script that get this, folks, the script would be this, taken off Trina's creative idea. So the script would be, you die, you go into heaven, and they introduce you to God, and God is just a toddler.
Oh, yeah, would he be so smart?
Imagine that. You met God, the creation of all things.
I've never seen a more intelligent being on this planet than the child. I would say, Wayne, you could be right. If it was to take a form, It might be a child.
Well, didn't Jesus say, in order to enter into the gates of heaven, you must be like a child?
You bet. There's a lot of reasons for that, because children remember what they were before they took on
and
their
they believe
costume.
in magic.
They know magic.
They know magic.
They don't believe it. They know it. They know it. They have gnosis of it because they still remember. They remember the geometry. They remember the vibration. They remember the color. They remember the smell, the sound. They still have all that information. I will tell you, that's why the inner child work is so powerful, because it is the part of you that remembers creation more than you would ever be able to. That part of you is your wizard. That is your best friend.
Yeah. Someone said, what if God was a snake?
Could be in this realm. I think it is. It's
George Burns did promote
dragon, Wayne. It was plasma dragon that created an egg of creation that could take on material form. That's what I see. It was all from a dragon, and there's good dragons and there's not so good dragons. Like I said, there's always the shadow and the light in this system.
Yeah.
Always in this system. Not in all systems, but in this one.
Well, folks, this has been a heck of a show. That's all I got to say. Trina, thank you, darling. They always say leave them laughing and wanting some more. So if y'all want some more, you got to tune in next week. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, we like bouncing these crazy concepts off because that's what they are. They're concepts and they're images that we hold in our mind. And I think if that is all even partially true, Wayne, imagine what could happen if we could really focus our images in our mind. Oh boy. Here we go.
I think that's it. Chloe says, did you hear me saying, hey, wait, that ain't funny. You better get back in there. I'm saying, Chloe, I'm gonna have to go back and read that. So, all right. Much love, Soul Tribe. Trina, thank you, darling. Much love to you. See you next Tuesday for sure. Everybody, you all are a gift to us, and we just send you bunches of love and favor, and thank you. All right. Until we meet again, that's what the cowboy says, happy trail.